I talk a lot about owner financing because in the last year, I haven't looked at the numbers exactly, but somewhere around 50% of our flip deals are selling with owner financing as opposed to, cash or conventional financing. And this has been the trend that going back since I first started doing owner financing was like 5%, 10%, 20%, meaning that's what percentage of our flip deals we're selling with owner financing, 25%. So it's somewhere around 50%. It's more and more of the flips that we do. And there's a whole lot of lessons that I could give you on this about how I first did my owner finance deal and then my second and third until I really had an aha moment thanks to my wife. I'm like, oh yeah, I never thought about it that way. Where I'm like, I really love this. And the quick conversation about that is that sitting down, going over things with my wife. My wife had a very little activity in the business for many, many years. She was a hairstylist for the first 10 years of our marriage, and then she was stay-at-home mom, took care of the kids, and all that was great. And then a few years ago, she's like, I'm going to do something. So she got her license. But she hasn't been that involved in the business, except being my number one cheerleader, support, coach, you name it. I want to quit. Nope. I want to do this. And she's like, yep, you can 100% do that. I'm like, really? I don't think I can. She's like, no, you can't. I believe in you. Okay. So she's been very involved in that side of things. But in terms of numbers and the intricacies of real estate, she doesn't care. Like, she doesn't care. But she's got wisdom in her, intuition. So one year, sitting down into the year and going over, hey, here's what we did this year. Here's what the plans are next year. And I'm going through like, here's how many flips we did. Here's the rental portfolio. Here's, coaching side of things. Here's this. And then I'm like, here's the owner finance notes. Here's what those look like. And at that point in time, I may have had a dozen owner finance notes. I don't remember. It wasn't a whole lot. And I'm like, that's what our owner finance note portfolio looks like. Now let's look this next thing. Let's look at the construction company. And she's like, no, wait, hold on. She's like, explain to me how the owner finance notes work again. She's like, I know you told me, but just tell me again. I was like, all right, well, it's kind of like a flip, meaning our strategy. People have different strategies with notes, but this is my strategy. I'm like, it's kind of like a flip, meaning we will, get a home ready to sell and put on the market. And typically they'll just sell, the traditional way we sell homes. But occasionally a home doesn't sell quick enough and we want it to sell. So we'll put out there for owner financing. Someone will say, hey, I want to buy it with owner financing. And we'll sell it to them with owner financing. So what that means is basically we'll have a closing, we'll sell the property to them, but we're going to carry the financing. So what it really boils down to is, number one, we're not going to get as much cash, not nearly as much cash at closing when we sell it. Sometimes we may have to bring a little bit of cash to closing when we actually sell it. Depends on the numbers of the deal, how much they're putting down, our position in at the sales price. Just depends. I said, so we're probably not going to get that much cash at closing, but sometimes we do. We've had owner finance borrowers that put down $50,000, $100,000. We get a nice little chunk of cash. I'm like, and we get monthly cash flow because there's usually a decent and sometimes a substantial amount of equity between our debt that we have on the property versus what they owe us. It's a spread. Okay. So for example, if we have $100,000 of debt at 7%, but we've got an owner finance note at $140,000 at 10% interest, that's really nice cash flow. I'm like, so they typically cash flow really nicely, but I'm like, it's way better than rentals because we're not dealing with all the tenant headache stuff, repairs, dealing with taxes and all this kind of stuff, because we use a third-party escrow company that's required in our agreement. So that owner finance borrower pays a third-party company, which they pay for that fee, not us. That company escrows for taxes and insurance. So we don't have, well, we don't have to worry about taxes and insurance. They make those payments and we get an ACH payment every month. We don't have to collect rents. It's like, I'm like, honestly, it's like the most passive form of income in real estate that I found. It's pretty cool. But anyways, let's move on. And I started talking about something else, and she was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why don't you just do that? And I was like, I'll be honest, I never even thought about that. But it's like, it's really, really great. And so if you ask me, like now, owner financing is my preferred form of deals. There's some disadvantages. You don't get tax benefits like you do on a rental, and you don't get appreciation. Like if the property, like if you sell property for 150 and 2 or 3 years later it's worth 250 or 350, then they can sell that home and take that profit. So that could be a downside. And people are like, well, why would you do that? And I said, well, because there was a point in my career, if you want to call it my career, was like my goal is I was going to have 100 rentals. And I started building to that. And I got close to 50 and I did not enjoy my life. I'm like, oh, this is going back to like when I was in, my job. I had a lot of tenants in my life, and I had a full-time property manager. I had a full-time construction company handle repair, so my costs were low. My management was there, but it was very stressful. There was always fires. There was vacancies. There's make-readies. There's repairs. There's people talking about lawsuits over like the craziest things. And I'm like, I don't care. Like I never got into real estate just to make money. That was a side benefit to real estate for me. I know that sounds crazy, but I wanted freedom. I wanted to do something I enjoyed. I wanted to control my schedule. I wanted to wake up and like feel good about what I was doing. And then I wanted to make money, but that was like goal number 3 or 4. Like this is. And so I was like, okay, if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, like I don't care how much money I'm making. So I was like, this is not for me. I got to figure something else out. And that was, I had started flipping. I'm like, I like flipping way more. And people like, well, you pay a lot of taxes. I'm like, yeah, but I'm making a lot of money. I went from like making almost like $55,000 the last year at corporate America, my job, to where a few years later I was paying 6 figures in taxes. That was crazy. First time I was like, oh bleep, I owe $100K. But I was like, that's pretty badass. It was also like, that's pretty cool. I wasn't happy to pay that money, but I was not too upset because I was like, that means you're making a lot of money. So there's some trade-offs with it. I'm not here to tell you that if your goal is just like to generate like net wealth is your goal, then you need to hold rentals. I still hold rentals to this day. But I was like, man, and mainly they're mostly older rentals, and I have rentals in our mobile home parks and RV parks. So I'll hold a decent amount of rentals to offset some other costs. And my parks help with that. My land helps with that. So there's a little bit of tax strategy on my part, not a lot. I'm not one of those guys. I'm like, just like make a lot of money and be wise with what you do, set aside money for taxes and things like that. But I started selling more with owner financing and more and more and more and more and more. And now we're up to about 65 owner finance notes. I've never sold any of my notes, which I could. But I love my notes. And so what I've said in this training also is that if you're flipping houses and you only have one exit strategy, you may have no exit strategy. Okay, because more times than you will care for, if you're doing this at a decent volume, some of your flips are going to flop. I can give you numerous reasons for that to occur. There's several times it's occurred for me. Trust me, every year I'm like, what's going on here? I have a really great property, underpriced in a nice neighborhood in Missouri City that's been on market for like 5-6 months. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? I don't really know. I know the data when I bought it. that I've used thousands of times before, and this thing's not selling. So it's selling now with under financing. But so it's a strategy that I use. So I want to talk about it a little bit more in depth. This was a case study a while back where some of my coaching students, and I'm going to run through briefly. It's an example of an owner finance deal, and it's also, this is a mobile home. I don't want this to be full out mobile home training. It just happens to be the most recent case study that I have, avails the mobile home. And I'm going to tell you that, preface it to say, like, these numbers are on the higher side, like on a better side. It's not like our average. So I'm not trying to tell you like, oh, we do this every deal. We don't. But it is to show you what's possible. And sometimes that helps when we're learning things. I don't want to mislead people, because I've been misled by mentors and people in the past. I'm like, oh, they were just full of, you know what? So I'm not trying to do that, but I am showing you what's possible, because some of my mentors have also done that, where they show me what is the potential, what is capable if I apply myself and, do things the right way. And this is a recent deal. So this is what's possible. So this was I'll let you kind of soak in some of these numbers right here. So this was a mobile home deal that we bought. It was a mobile home on land in Cleveland, Texas. We bought it for $45,000. That was a $35,000 purchase price plus a $10,000 assignment fee from a wholesaler. The funny thing was, this wholesaler, he always worked with my acquisitions agent on a couple deals. And I guess we had met at some point in time in the past briefly, and we did this deal. And he kind of followed up later on to say, like, he had a conversation with my acquisitions agent. And he's like, man, I come across a lot of mobile home deals, and we've, threw a lot of them away and just not done anything with them. He's like, I've been seeing like Brant's doing a lot of these mobile homes. So what are y'all doing with them? So they had a conversation, and he ended up like joining my coaching program. He's like, dude, how are you doing this? Like, I want to learn this. So he came in specifically to learn this one strategy, because he's got a really good business. But he's like, I want to add this specifically to basically put this tool in my toolbox. So that was the numbers, though. We bought it for $45,000, our all-in purchase price. Projected our repairs to be about $50,000. And based off mobile home comps in the area, we had a projected sales price of $165. That seems a little low on the 60% LTV. So y'all feel free to check me on that. Seems low. My system may have put that in wrong, but really good spread. Really good spread. I think we can all see that. Okay, this is a gross profit, not actual net profit, just like the HGTV numbers of around $70,000. So that's good. That's really good. Actual profit, we'll get to that. Monthly cash flow, we'll get to that. So things we're going to talk about, the funding source. You guys already know that we fund everything with private money. This was kind of set up for us to do a YouTube video. The lead source, I've already disclosed that was a wholesaler. Most of our stuff is our direct marketing. We did buy this from a wholesaler. We're going to go through the before and after pictures and get to the final numbers. So some more details on this deal. The mobile home was in 1985. Typically, I don't like to buy mobile homes that old, but sometimes we do. If the budget is there, we can make them nice. It was 1,568 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 3/4 of an acre lot, basically, which is, it's good. And we've already talked about these numbers. We plugged that into our Mesa. And when I plugged it into the Mesa, it looked really good. $45K purchase price, $50K in rehab, acquisition fee to my acquisitions agent, $100K loan. If I look down 6 months, we're around a $47K profit. That's a good deal. All the lights were check green. And the property, if you want to see, that was in Cleveland, Texas. We did aerial view. Let's see here. That's it. You can barely see it. And that's kind of one of the things I liked about, like, the house is tucked away in there. And like, this is the land. And it was pretty cool. Like, okay, it was a little crowded. Yeah. But once you get under the tree, you know, we get under like the foliage of the tree, like you could see. And I'll show you all that in just a minute. Okay. So this, how do we fund it? Private money. This is 10%. And then the other thing with this, selfish plug here, is that it was 10%. We got cash at closing, okay, from our lender, meaning we got all of the rehab money plus a little bit extra because of our loan to value position. And it was accrued interest, meaning we weren't making any payments. And I've mentioned this before. Sometimes you need to hear things a few times for it soaks in. We weren't making any payments. So y'all's group flip, for example, y'all are doing a group flip and everybody has, y'all are making monthly payments to your lender, right? Is that correct, guys? Yeah.
I don't think we started yet, but yeah, that's the
Not
plan.
started, but yeah, but
Yeah,
you, assuming you will be.
Yeah, we calculated the whole cost. I think it's around 2,500.
Yeah. So most like loans or hard money lenders, even privately, you make monthly payments. And if you got 1 or 2 deals going on, hopefully that's fine. Well, if you have 5 or 10 deals going on, and let's say you're, you know, on average $2,000 to $3,000 each one. Well, if you get 10 flips going on at 2,500, that's $25,000 a month in mortgage payments, while at the same time, you know, paying money to contractors, utilities, lights, water, taxes, insurance, And this is why most investors have a hard time either scaling or sustaining their flip business. Okay. Very important. Most investors, most real estate investors don't go out of business because they're not doing good deals. That's not the reason why. They go out of business because of cash flow. They just don't have enough cash to weather these ups and downs. This is absolutely game changing when you're able to raise money and establish relationships with lenders where they say, you know what, don't worry about making monthly payments. Let's just let the interest accrue and you'll pay it whenever it sells. I hope y'all get that. That would be a good cut, Micah, for YouTube. It's so important because most of our deals are accrued interest. What does that do to the cash flow of my business if I'm not having to pull money out of pocket to rehab each and every home because I'm getting that money at closing? Game changing. What does that do to my business if I'm not making monthly payments to lenders because that interest is accruing on my flip deals? Game changing. It's not like, the reason I've been able to sustain at this so long is that like I'm some superhero. I'm not a superhero. I'm the dude who barely got out of high school. Most of you are probably much more intelligent than me if we had to like IQ test, which I don't want to do because you're going to make me look bad. But there's been a few critical pieces, maybe some divine intervention and blessing that I've had that has transpired with relationships and things that have just gone on where I'm like, oh, wow, this has really, really been like a blessing to me. So I need y'all to get this. This private money piece is critical to your sustainability and your scalability of your business. Okay. So this is how we do most all of our deals. This was just showing like this was made for like an online presentation, but what it does is it shows you, is like proof, like show me the receipts. All right, here we go. This showed that we got $53,000, $53,750 at closing, cash to borrower. Okay, what was our rehab budget, if y'all remember? Invest on Pro. This was July. Was that July? Yeah, July of last year. Dude, that's right over Burl hit. We closed that sucker like Burl's like coming to town. So what was our rehab budget? Pop quiz. Who was paying attention? Who was checking social media status when Brant was talking?
49,000.
All right, I knew Jerry. You're a numbers guy. You're analytical. I already knew you. That's right. Jerry got it right. 49,000. Well, we got 53 at closing. How is that possible? Well, it's because my lender said that they were comfortable doing that. And was it possible that we were going to have cost overruns, all that kind of stuff? Yep, you bet your behind. So would we be doing that if the LTV were different, like not as good? No, we would not. But this one, the better we negotiate deals, then the better, that we can negotiate terms. And then this shows you on the note, this is receipts, terms of payment, 104,000, whatever the loan amount was, interest rate 10%. Principal amount is due and payable on the maturity date, and the interest shall accrue. Just let that soak in. This is a really big deal. I know people have been in real estate, some full-time, some just like been doing it very part-time for a long time, 10 or 15 years, that are still using hard money lenders. That should not be the case. My youngest son is 10 years old. He did not want to take the training wheels off of his bike. He was the hardest one, for me to get off the training wheels. And I'm like, bro, sit down. We need to have a conversation. You're 5, bro. Like, it's time to man up. The training wheels have to come off. Period. Kicking, screaming, crying, I don't care. They're coming off. You got to take training wheels off. I know investors, like, they're not taking them training wheels off. And it's not that hard. And I'm like, and it would change your business. And then what happened? What has happened with our children when they learn to ride the bike without the training wheels? Is any of your kids been like, oh, Dad, put the training wheels back on? No, never. That has never happened. So this is taking the training wheels off. This is game changing. So are you guys with me? Are y'all understanding this, seeing this?
Yeah.
Maybe in a different light? I know we've talked about it in Flip School, but you see it in a different light. Lead source, a lot of ways to generate leads. I teach my students, pick a lead source, like a deal flow, a lead valve, focus on it, build it up till it's producing results. Then you add another lead source. Wholesalers are easy to add. Their deals are not that good in today's market in terms of flip worthy. They're just not. They're not. A low percentage of wholesaler deals are deals. They're still in there, but you got to dig through a lot of bad ones to get to the good ones. This was a good one. We did our rehab estimate. I'm not going to get into those details. I'm not getting those details, but we ended up coming a little under budget on here. So let me show you a couple of videos. Or I'm sorry, links. Hold on. Oh, that looks. All right, back. Can y'all see my screen still? Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna real quickly show y'all the before and after. This would be the before. I don't think they did the full. This is not it. This is not it. It's the wrong mobile home. It's his cousin. That's his cousin down the road. Okay. So this is the beauty right here. This beauty is about to become a beast, though. It's gonna become a flip beast. So this is our beauty here. A lot of investors walk up, mobile home. Ugh, I ain't touching that mobile home. This agent brought us a mobile home deal. It was one of the first first big mobile home flips we did, we had done a few. Not many. It was like, wasn't a thing. It was just like on occasion, some laying in our lap. We did them. They were fine. I'm like, oh, okay, you can flip mobile homes. That's pretty cool. This agent came to me and said, hey, I know you mess with those mobile homes. We don't mess with those. Kind of like in a snooty, like, yeah, we don't deal with the mobile homes. You can have it. We don't want it. Pretentious kind of whatever. Like, okay, we'll take it. If it's a deal, send it to us. And we ended up netting 6 figures on it. I'm like, thank you very much. Here's a thank you card as we're booking it to Cancun for a week. So I was like, holy cow, like that was kind of nice. That was nice of you. So we flipped that sucker. And so this one, my eyes have been like, all right, like you guys have heard of red ocean versus blue ocean strategies. For the time being, and the more I talk about this and more others talk about it, there's not a lot to talk about. It's going to become more of a red ocean because people can't afford regular homes, but people still want a home ownership. So it's become a red ocean strategy. Red ocean is where all the sharks are and there's blood in the water. It's the single family home market. Blue ocean strategies like, oh, this is nice. There's no sharks. Like, let's, have a Mai Tai and hang out on the beach. It's kind of nice. It will be a red ocean strategy before we know it's already happening. That's okay. People are like, well, Brant, why do you talk about? Why do you share? I'm like, I don't know, because that's what God wants me to do. So that's what I do. It's all good. There's an abundance to be had in this world in our lives, my friends. So this is the home. And if you remember, I said if you looked at an aerial, you're like, oh my gosh, it's the jungle. I'm like, no, it's really not. It's really not. You had a really peaceful space in this nice openness. And you can actually see out the backyard. There's one of the big old giant antennas that this is one of the first places I got to use my tractor. I bought a tractor last year and I used it here in this freaking thing, clipped my cover on it. And that was unfortunate. So here's the outside. Here's the side. It had a little junky lean-to, and it had a patio cover, basketball court, all this brush, and had a lot of issues. This was the inside. He left all of these contents. Okay. This was like we kind of had to do a lot of demo and trash out, and the ceiling had these strange whatever you want to call those seams. So we kind of worked with that. I'll show you in a little bit. Kitchen is what it is. We did leave the countertops and resurface those. I'll show you those. Utility room, not a lot to show you here. And bedrooms and bathrooms were pretty much kind of standard. This had, original carpet paneling. He took good care of the home. He really did. It was just dated, There's the bathroom, standard kind of mobile home bathroom. It's got that old school wallpaper. So he got his money's worth out of this home. How they got this in there, I do not know. Don't know, but they got it in there. And let's see here.
Well, how did you get it out again?
I don't know. I said, hey guys, we need that out of here, and they get it out. It's magic.
Right.
So they may have had to cut it. We've had to do that before. Maybe the legs came off is what I'm guessing. They did it sideways. This is the primary bathroom because we can't say master bedroom or master bath anymore. Maybe we can. Trump's in office. Maybe that changed. Who knows? Primary bedroom, primary bathroom. All right. So y'all got it. So that's the before. And this was roughly around $45,000 of rehab, I think is where we spent. And $228. And this is the after product. Look at this. What do you guys think?
Much
Nice.
nice.
Yeah, and really, like, I was like, wow. And that our goal is, most of our homes, we want to say, like, people like, wow, that's nice. We cleared out a lot of the brush around it, including, this entry, because it was like really, really tight. So we cleared out the entry so it wasn't weird. Now you're like, man, I got a yard, I got some space here, but it's so like peaceful. We kept, this siding was kind of rotten towards the end because there's rain, there's the rain would drip down and covering, but it was not so great here. So we added a trim piece. Okay. This is AKA, it's called a rot board, and just installed new siding at the bottom. If y'all see that. So that was a cost savings. I dislike the standard mobile home skirting. So we do a wood skirting. It looks nicer. It's more expensive, but it's like, this is a little more of a premium product, and it gives it more of like a home feel, like a pier and beam home. Okay. So even though it's a mobile home, we don't really want it to feel like a mobile home. Of course, we painted everything. That's the existing roof, guys. I didn't really point out the roof before, but we cleaned it and was like, holy cow. That's one of the ways that we saved our budget, reduced our budget. This is the back of the home. I didn't point this out earlier. I really should have. I'm just gonna do it real quick. Two things that we also did that I do want to show you. Why aren't you working? Okay. Two things that we did that, a couple things. One, and you really can't see good roof picture, so I apologize, but we did save the roof. And then the other thing was here. You see the living room had a glass sliding door. Okay. Originally had a glass sliding door. Well, if you go to the after, I'm gonna go to the backyard. No glass sliding door. Why did we do that? Anybody? I think you know why. Money. The answer is always money. So we're like, if we keep the glass sliding door, number one, we have to install a glass sliding door. We did not want to do that. Number two, what else were we gonna have to install? A deck on the backside, a fairly large deck, right? Because that's a glass sliding door, it's a wider opening. So now we're getting to thousands of dollars versus a couple of pieces of sheetrock and a couple of pieces of siding. Everybody with me on that? So with the roof, and that was like, okay, we saved like $7,000-8,000. Now I'm sure we made up for a couple other places, but that's how we look at things. Okay. And then this is the after product. I mean, look at this. This is like, got rid of the satellite dish. This is just like, please give me a break. 3/4 of an acre land for now a home that looks like this. Where else are you gonna find that at? You're not. Like, you're not. We painted the brick, doesn't look great. Oh, where the glass sliding door was, I take that back. We did install a window there. Okay, so we had the window cost, but it's a lot cheaper than glass sliding door. They secured or replaced some of those seams on the ceiling. And we flip our mobile homes for the most part like we flip our houses. Like, we want to get a good product. We're not putting trash back on the market. So this is all new vinyl flooring. We've painted everything. The kitchen, I can't remember if we replaced that stove or it's existing, but basic black stove. We usually do stainless. I'm not sure why we did that. To be quite honest, we might have had a used stove at another project that we brought here. I don't recall why, but we do that on occasion. New dishwasher. The countertops, you can't really see, but we resurfaced them. This is not granite. So we refinished them. Okay. That's why typically you'll see an undermount sink on granite. This is overmount because we resurfaced it into overmount sink. Make sense? $10 little, pretty cheap little disc lights give the appearance of like a, recessed light. That's what that is. Let's see here. Bedrooms, carpet, ceiling fans, pretty standard, basic blinds, little things, just painting. One of our things is, it's a little thing, but we like to gel stain all the closet rods. It's just, to me, I don't know why, it's one of my pet peeves, just to see plain closet rods. It just kind of looks cheap and I'm finishing. You gel stain, like, oh yeah, it just makes it look like a finished product, and it's like really not expensive to do. You can see here they probably had, the sheetrock was probably dipping a little bit, so they added a seam right here, a trim, rather than replacing the sheetrock. Once again, this is a resurfaced countertop. Okay, we resurfaced these countertops. 99% sure on that, although that does look like a piece of Formica. But no, this is a resurfaced countertop because the Formica would have a 4-inch backsplash. So my guys are getting, this is my cheap refinisher. He's getting pretty good at the granite look stuff. So that's probably like $100.
So what is that refinished with, Brant? I mean,
It's like
is it a laminate glued on top, or is it?
No, it's an epoxy. It's an epoxy paint.
Huh.
So it's very, very, very durable. Cheapest mirrors that we can find, to be honest, and lights. But, we'll replace the toilets, all that kind of stuff. And so, let's see here. So that's about it. So then it's time to go to market. So then we go to market and we looked at it and we're like, this looks really, really good. That's a typo. Project repairs. So we ended up spending a little of only over $41,000 in repairs. We ended up listing it at 185.78 or something like that. And that was the offer that we got. Owner finance. I've got a couple owner finance agents who specialize in working with owner finance buyers, and they bring us a lot of buyers. Like, they focus all their marketing on that, which, for those of you who are agents, which I know is a lot of you, one of the most important things in being successful in business, especially real estate, is finding your niche. And so we have some agents who niched in this. And a matter of fact, I remember last year when agents are like, oh, buyers agents are like, oh, it's the end of the world. We're not going to get commission, blah, 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 blah. I had previously made an agreement with an individual who brings me owner finance buyers. I pay him 4%. Why? I was just like, dude, he's a hustling kind of dude. I'm like, dude, now we're marketing our property too. So the thing is, like, you have to bring us a buyer before someone else does. And if you do, and we accept your buyer, I'll pay 4%. So, there's some things like, bring us good buyers, blah, 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 signed, sealed, and delivered. I pay him 4%. This is business. It's a free marketplace. Do whatever you want to do. But, like, yeah. And if I don't like the buyer or the offer, I'm like, I won't pay 4%. But I always tend to always do. So anyways, he brought us this buyer. The start to finish time was less than 5 months. So the numbers is a $76,000 spread. Okay. $76,000 spread. So we've got HUD statements and all on here. And if we break the deal down, okay, break the deal down, here's what it looks like. So cash at closing, meaning when we sold the property, negative $11,000. So you're like, oh, Brant, what do you mean? But look at this. We received $53K at closing, which on this particular deal happened to be $12,000 more than our rehab cost, because our rehab ended up being $41,000. So that basically was a break even. If you're following me, like essentially net zero cash out of pocket when the dust settled. But then we refinanced our debt, meaning our private lender debt, to long-term debt, and we got around $3,000 after closing. We paid some points and all that. So we walked away with my debt, what I owe, of being $115,000 at 8.75% interest. Maybe a little bit confusing, so I'm going to pause and see if anyone has any questions. I'm still keeping debt on this property. No questions?
So, how can you keep debt on the property if you no longer own it?
I was waiting for the question, so thank you very much. So there's several ways you can do this. This can get really, really complex, so I'm not going to go too in depth here. But what a lot of investors do is they'll do a wrap mortgage. They'll keep their mortgage in place and we'll do what's called a wrap loan around it. I don't do that. I used to do it exclusively. It's easier, it's cheaper, it's faster, it's quicker, it's really, really good, except it's illegal in a lot of states. And my particular broker, EXP, said you can't do wrap mortgages. And when I found that out after I joined EXP, and you guys who know Connor, he will tell you, I called Connor. I'm like, I'm leaving EXP, bro, because you didn't tell me about this. And I'm doing a lot of these things. And he's like, whoa, maybe we can find a solution. I'm like, you're right. Maybe I should pump the brakes too, because I really like EXP. So I called my attorney. I'm like, here's the problem that I have. What are some solutions? And he's like, well, you can do this. And I'm like, okay, let's do that. So what we do, and a lot of this too came up with when all the Dodd-Frank legislation came up, and there was just requirements put in for like predatory lending and things like that. So I don't agree with a lot of government legislation, just to be honest with you. But I did agree with this. Like, I understand it. Like, wrap loans are kind of a dangerous thing for the borrowers. Like, I would not buy a property with a wrap loan, because if that underlying borrower defaults, I could lose my property because of them. It's not fair. It's not right. It should not be the case. So what we do, to answer your question, is I will take my debt, like say on this one, I owed 105, 110, whatever it was. And what I used to do was I would go to my lender and I would say, hey, Mr. or Miss Lender, I owe you $105,000, as you know, on this property. I've got an owner finance buyer who's wanting to buy my property, say, for example, for $165,000. I would like to sell it to them with owner financing, but I also want to give them first lien position, which is the law and congruent with my broker's policies. I like to do that. But what that means is you can no longer have first lien position. So with my attorney, me and my attorney got together. We created an explanatory video that I could send to my lenders. I'd say, hey, rather than me explain this to you, and also to save time so I don't have to explain every time, watch this video from my attorney that explains it. But basically what we do is at closing, simultaneously, the debt that I have to my lender, this $110K, is quote unquote paid off, forgiven, released. A new note is created for the borrower, with me being the lender, first lien position for their loan. In this particular case, I didn't put the amount. It's $180,000 or something. I should have that on here. I'm the first lien lender, and then my lender's debt is restructured. It's restructured to like a collateral. The collateral becomes the transfer of the note. Okay. That's a fancy way of saying that they have a promissory note now where I'm the borrower that says, hey, I'm going to pay you each and every month $1,016.27 for this $115K of debt, amortize at whatever is amortized at 20 or 25 years. I'm going to pay you that. If I miss a payment, or if I cease paying you, their collateral no longer is the property as if they were a first lien lender. The collateral now is my note. They can take over the notes and assume that first lien position. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes
So they are still secured in a way. It's very similar to how a lot of lenders loan to hard money lenders. And that's where he basically he's like, well, this is what I do with some hard money lending companies. We can use that same strategy here. So we've been doing this for many, many years now. And this one is done. So I was originally doing it with my private lender saying, hey, would you be okay doing this? And a lot of them said yes, and someone said no. And I'm like, either way, it's fine. Now I've got some long-term bank type lenders who will say, yeah, we'll come in there. And now we're getting it in the mid to high 7s to low 8s is the cost for debt on this. So it's not great, but we can live with that because our interest rates to our borrowers are typically 9.5 to 10.99% interest. But then there's the spread. Okay. So on
Wait,
this
so you're
one,
able to get the 7 and 8% on a second position loan?
it's not a second position though. It's not a second lien. It's a completely different loan instrument, debt instrument. So it's
Okay.
not truly a second lien. Okay. It is a different form of collateral. In to be quite honest, the way that I explain it to my lenders in the position, like, and truthfully, like I say, positioning, like when you're raising money, like like if y'all are coming to my Raising Private Money event next month, for those that you're coming, we're going to talk a lot about like the key to raising money is really like not trying to sell anybody on anything. It's like you're educating people, you're helping people, you're finding out what their goals are, you're finding out what their fears are, you're providing solutions. If you do that and it matches and what they're looking for, they'll move forward with you. And if they don't, they won't. But in terms of sales, what is sales? Sales is like really finding good solutions, right, for people's problems. And there is salesmanship that's involved, and there's positioning and there's framing. And the way that I frame this, I didn't realize for a long, long time. I was like, to be honest, like this way I might have a conversation with my lender, if they're asking questions, I'm like, to be honest, I think this is a safer position than you just being in a first lien position. And like, what do you mean? Okay, now you get their attention. Well, why is that? Well, one, so you're insulated. Okay. Number one is like, if I'm your first lien borrower, like, okay, have I done 500 deals? Have I paid 10,000 mortgages without missing one? Yep. But could something happen to me? Yes, it could. Mike is sitting here with me. When he started with me a couple months ago, there was a dude in my RV park that was trying to kill me. Wish I was making that up. Not even making it up. That's another
crazy.
day, another story. Bleep happens. Emoji poop happens. Okay. He threatened to kill Micah too. Micah's first day on the job, on the apprenticeship. And he didn't threaten to kill you. He said he could cripple you for life. Handicap him for life. Anyways, something could happen to me. If something happens to me, Mr. Lender, you're taking that property back. A lot of lenders, they don't want to take properties back. In this particular structure, I have an owner finance borrower that's putting 10, 20, 30% down on the property for their primary residence. By the way, not putting me into just in general, a primary resident homeowner that puts 10 to 30% down on a deal is a much better, their success rate, right, in fulfilling that loan is much greater than a real estate investor, a flipper. Much higher default rate with the real estate flipper. Y'all with me? So I'm like, Mr. Lender, look at this. Just look what we have here. You have an owner finance homeowner. This is their homestead. They've put a lot of cash down. That's the number one criteria on determining a loan performance. Is it a homeowner that put a lot of cash down? You got that. That's that they move most likelihood to perform on that loan. So
So-
you got them.
Why would someone own or finance if they have 20% down to stick on the property?
So here's first answer. Why would somebody do that? I don't care why they would. I just know that they do. Okay. So I'm answering that question because I remember when I first started speaking and teaching, and then occasionally I talk to people who aren't in the business, and I would say, when I would talk about how one of our criteria when we buy properties, typically we're buying 50% of the ARV. Like, if this house is worth 200, we're probably going to buy it for 100,000 or less. That's not true. Nobody sells their homes at that. You can't do that. I'm like, okay, you don't have to believe it. I just know that it's true and people do. Why would they do that? And I'm like, they just do. It doesn't even matter. But then I would explain the scenarios. So a lot of it, to answer your question, is one, they can't get traditional financing. It may be their credit. They may have went through the divorce. We work with a lot of Hispanics that don't trust the banks, that haven't built up their credit, and they prefer dealing with individuals rather than banks. There's a market. There's a marketplace for it. Like there just is.
So do you use a mortgage broker, someone to kind of like vet the person and make sure that check their income, make sure that they can afford the house?
We do. Very good question also. So we are per Dodd-Frank. It's not something that we desired to do, but per Dodd-Frank, we use an RMLO on every transaction, was a residential mortgage loan originator. Okay. And which the buyer pays for. So this is also why very little of the buyer's down payment actually goes to the principal, because we charge points. We require years upfront of insurance. We escrow for taxes. They have to pay RMLO. They have to pay closing costs, all this kind of stuff. So we do. So they're also qualified. We began doing that after Dodd-Frank. So all of our notes are very clean, meaning if we wanted to sell a note, we could take it to a note buyer, to a lender. Hey, would you like to buy a note? And our notes are very clean. If you don't run them through an RMLO and you don't do things that are Dodd-Frank compliant, they're not as clean. What does that mean? Could you sell it? Probably. Would you take more of a discount? Most likely. If it came to foreclosure, would you be able to foreclose on it? Probably. Would it be as easy? Nope. Now they say, oh, you're a predatory lender because you didn't run them through an RMLO, which is technically the law. Okay, technically, I think you're supposed to sell like 2 to 3 per year to have to be required to do that. But yeah, we do that on every instance. Okay, we do it on every instance. So the long story short is, like, there's just a marketplace out for these buyers, and they're there. And when they cease being there, then we won't do this anymore. Very, very, very low default rate on the notes that we have had. So on this particular deal, though, we ended up, we have this much debt. I'm sorry, this much monthly debt, $1,016. This is principal and interest. So we're paying down this note monthly. This is a monthly note from our borrower. This is principal and interest. This is not taxes and insurance. They're paying that above and beyond that. That's escrowed to a third-party company. So every single month, I will tell you, I've never spoken to these borrowers. They've never called us for repairs or maintenance, because why? They're the homeowners. That's responsibility. But every single month now, we get an ACH for $1,787.17. Zero's deducted out of that. The third-party financing fees, they pay for it. Their taxes and escrow, insurance or escrow, those would be paid annually. So what this equates to is a monthly cash flow of $771. $771.17. A lot of sevens in there. I like sevens. It's a really good deal. A really good deal. So, be aware of this. I'm not like I just threw a lot at you guys. I just wanted to open your eyes to this because as you get out there flipping houses, you may run into some deals that you're not getting, a conventional offer that you want. And, you're like, well, hey, I need to see what my other options are. Maybe your agent or whatever, another agent says, hey, here's an owner finance offer. Will you entertain it? Maybe entertain it. Because that's what I started. I was like, maybe I'll entertain that. And then I entertained another one. And now it gets up to where, okay, build up time was like, okay, 5K a month is good. 10K a month is good. Oh, 15K a month in notes, like net, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So I'm just getting like, this is flip school. So there's other options when it comes to flipping properties.
That's pretty cool.